Welcome to Find Your Momentum with Ken Korse on Money 105.5 and findyourmomentumradio.com. Momentum is everything in business. You need to constantly generate more leads, make better sales, and create bigger results. That's what we do on Find Your Momentum. Ken Korse has trained thousands of small businesses around the world, and now he's here to go to work for you. Get inspired, motivated, and in action with Ken starting right now on Find Your Momentum.
All right, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Find Your Momentum Radio at findyourmomentumradio.com. Today, we're going to talk again about scalability. Actually, one of the most popular episodes of this show that we have done was Scale versus Fail a few weeks back when we really talked about what it takes to structure a business. And what's interesting about that is I said, I know so many people and so many coaches who've been doing this for years and years and years who helped train me and bring me up in what I was doing. Because, 10 years ago, I didn't know anything about marketing or sales or business. I was in the nonprofit world and I was really focused on fundraising, grant writing, how could I give back to the community? And what I learned through the process of working with people like my guests today and working with masters who've been in this industry a very long time is I started to realize that a lot of the language that I was using, you might use things like outreach or giving back to the community or relationship or just that casual language is actually just turned into kind of jargon in the coaching world, turned into sales, turned into marketing, turned into scalability. And so my coaches and my mentors were really key in helping turn me around, and I know they'll be key in helping turn you around. And so today, I know for a lot of you out there, you're really focused on making that 100K move. You want to move your business to six figures or higher. And so I brought in the expert who's really a master of that. Janet Fish, who's here with me today, one of my mentors, helped train me how to coach, helped train me how to work with people. She's actually a reformed corporate executive, and now she's a serial entrepreneur and is really, truly passionate about coaching. She probably coaches more people than any coach that I know at any given time. And she's been coaching since 2005. She's helped people start or grow a business. She's helped people make lots of money as well as big corporate companies. We'll talk about that today. She helps them invest for long-term growth. She's a specialist in business coaching, health and fitness too, as well as author of Slimpreneur, internet marketing, social media marketing, real estate. What else can I say? Janet Fish, welcome to Find Your Momentum. How are you?
Thank you. I'm great. I'm so happy to be here.
I know. Janet and I have been hosting coaching calls and other trainings together for, 6-7 years now on the other side of it. And so, Janet, you've also mentioned this is your first time on the radio. I'm so happy to have you here on Money 105.5 in Sacramento.
Super, super happy to be here, Ken.
So tell me a little bit. So your new plan is really to help people get to 10K a month within a year of business. And so how did that work for you? Because I know you used to be in a big company, big corporate. So tell us a little bit about you and how you got where you got.
Sure. Well, I was, as you said, I was in corporate America. And what I found about corporate America for me was that I wasn't challenged. I'd been doing the same kind of things for a long time. Like I know a lot of your listeners are probably kind of in that corporate rut.
Right.
And I just wanted a change. And so I found other entrepreneurs and I found mentors who kind of helped me take that transition from the corporate world to my entrepreneurship. And I would say that the big driving force for me, and has been for the 12 or 13 years that I've been an entrepreneur, is my goal to give back. You were just talking about that. So my gift is coaching, and that's really what I wanted to do, and that's why I started down this journey, and that's why I'm here doing what I do every single day.
Yeah, and what's interesting, I've given a definition of coaching on this show because a lot of people hear the word and they immediately think life coaching, which neither of us are life coaches. Now we're dealing with your life, of course, we've got to manage that, but could you give people, what's your definition of coaching and what does that mean to someone who's never heard of what that is before?
So I'm a coach, and this is the kind of coach that I am.
Sure.
I'm a coach that, like a lot of coaches, like the life coaches out there, will be woo-woo, and they'll be kind of like, what do you want out of life and those kind of things. And that's great. I mean, that's perfectly fine. I'm the kind of coach. Every time I get on the phone with you, most of my coaching is done via phone. My goal for you is for you to know exactly what you need to do when you leave that call.
Right.
So I'm a very directive coach.
Yes.
And I just think that's what people need. People don't need a lot of niceties. They need someone to really understand where they are, guide them, support them, and tell them what they need to do next.
Right. So when you were coming out of the corporate America space, you mentioned you had mentors and coaches. So what were some of the things they were telling you around that time?
Well, what I find people coming out of the corporate world, and what I think the one thing that I found to be the case was the skills that I had in my corporate world. Even though I went from that to selling land development. I did a big land development program, and I did some real estate and things like that. In addition to growing a coaching business, the skills that you have as a W-2 person, as a corporate America, you can easily use those in building your own business.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what people don't get. So my goal, like I said, is really to help people identify what business they want to create, and then step by step how to get there.
Right. Well, and that's one of the focuses of business management. I think a lot of people look at their salary, they look at their paycheck, and for a lot of people, that's a good salary and a good paycheck. And you got to think, I like to give people an example. When you look at it statistically, most employees for any given company are worth 2 to 3 times more than what they're being paid in the company to the company itself. Some employees are worth as much as 10 to 15 times more. So if you're making $100K a year, you're probably worth anywhere between 300 and $1 million for that company in revenue. So I imagine a lot of people don't realize that because they're not taking the risk of being the business owner. I know a lot of people, when they become entrepreneurs, will say, I don't want to be the business owner. That's a lot of responsibility. They have to be looking at those numbers. And so for you, I know that you actually were happy in your corporate job. I remember that you were really satisfied with what you were doing there. So what was the kind of kickstart that made you say, all right, it's time to make a move, or it's time to make a jump?
I think part of it was the lack of challenge. I was bored, right? I mean, I felt like I was contributing and all of that, but I was bored.
Right.
And what I've learned is it's the freedom that you have, and I know you've experienced this yourself. It's the freedom that you have as an entrepreneur to work with the people you want to, not work with the people you don't want to, help the people you want to. The freedom of taking a Friday off and going skiing. I'm a big skier, or hiking, or it's the freedom that you have to do whatever you want to do.
Right.
And then it's growing the business to the point that for me is important, the philanthropic piece, to give back to the community, to give back to the organizations that I am passionate about.
Well, and even for most people, I like to point it both at the community. Everybody wants to give back to something. And we say on the show all the time, it's never about the money. All the mentoring I've ever had, even when they're coaching you about money and how to make more money, it's never about the money. It's normally about family. It's normally about community. It's normally about travel or lifestyle. In your case, that's definitely what it was. And so when you started working into that journey, when did you realize, so you're an employee, you become an entrepreneur, you start doing, bringing some sales skills into that. When did you go, wow, coaching is the thing? Like, coaching's what I love.
So when I first started, and I actually started in the real estate world because that was something I didn't know anything about, I really wanted to learn about. But as an executive in corporate America, I helped a lot of people.
Right.
And specifically women. I helped women with the confidence in the sales and all of that. And so I was helping a lot of women just because I was doing it, not getting paid for it. And I had a mentor who said to me, Janet, I think coaching is what you need to think about doing. Yeah. And so once I started doing it and I started building a business around it, and I got better at it and better at it and better at it, it just, I don't know, in every cell in my being, I know that that's my gift and that's what I'm here to do. And so it just kind of grew from people mentoring me and then the experience of doing it.
Right. Well, and what's so interesting is how you can do both at the same time. Most people don't realize there's value both in doing what you do. Like, most of us equate, all right, it's that industrial thing of we go to a job, we create X amount of productivity, and then we receive the pay, and then we go home, and then we come back and we do it again. Most people don't think that even if I'm someone that does training for a living and I train people on a system, what's interesting is that any person that works in that system will do it a little bit differently. Even if the system is exactly the same, even if it's assembly line to some degree, you'll see everybody has their little way of doing thing or their little way of doing that routine. And when you can teach what you do or coach other people to do it and then guide them through how they would do it, it's such a valuable skill to be able to do that and say, all right, from this point now, you've got to be able to not only know what you know and stand in that, but I've always joked that coaching is like 1% training and skills and 99% behavior management. And actually, a lot of people, like you said, want to be told what to do. And so how do you do that as a coach? Because obviously you have to tell them what to do. What does that look like for someone when you're working with them?
So I try to explore where they are. So one of the big tenets about coaching, and I know that you know this, is really meeting people where they are. So I really, try to meet people where they are and take them to where they need to go. I also I really focused on what the next step that they should take, not 25 steps, but what's the next step, what's the next couple of steps that they need to do. And it's really, every coaching call is different and every interaction is different.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just meeting them where they are and then taking them where they need to go.
Well, I am here with Janet Fish, who is the Breakaway Business Growth Specialist, and we're actually going to talk about her plan as we go into the second segment here and how you can start to scale up on your own without a job to $10K a month in 365 days here on FindYourMomentumRadio.com. With my great friend, one of my mentors, trainers, Janet Fish. She is a breakaway business specialist and really a master of sales and marketing. And we talked in our first segment about how she made the break out of corporate America, where she was very successful but bored in what she was doing. And now I want to flip the switch to results, which I know is your favorite conversation, to say, how do we create results in business? And you focus specifically on 10K a month or 10,000 a month. Why 10K a month? Why that number?
It just seems like a magic number that $100,000, it seems like everybody wants to make at least $100,000.
Right.
And what I love about that is learning how to make $100,000 or $120,000, which would be the 10K a month.
Right.
That's the first $100,000 or $120,000 that you make is the most difficult.
Yeah.
And so I really focus on that because that seems to be a point that resonates with people. And once they get there, the second 100,000 or the third 100,000 is just layering on of doing more of the same thing, of growing it and really looking at team and those kind of things that come into play. So to me, $100,000 seems to be something that resonates with people, and at the same time, the first 100's the hardest to make. And we walk them through how to do that.
Exactly. Well, what's interesting is you hear the statistics, and it's funny. I grew up in the Midwest. I tell people, I grew up in Detroit, where it was primarily three employers that drove the entire economy. You have the auto industry and then all the industries that serve the auto economy. And so my conversation was, being an entrepreneur is risky. Now, what's hilarious about that is the automakers, if you look at them, were all wild entrepreneurs and did what they did and ran that way. But the truth is that you hear this associated with risk, and then you hear a lot of people who start off and don't get to that number or any type of number that's remotely near there. Why do you think it's so hard for businesses to get there? You mentioned 100K or 120K is really hard. Why is it so hard to get there?
So I have this concept of online and offline marketing. And to me, the marketing, I like to tell my clients, is the secret sauce. Mm-hmm. That's what makes the difference between building a business and not building a business. And so the concept of online and offline, and I always encourage them to start with offline marketing strategies. So offline marketing strategies would be networking groups, and Chamber of Commerce, getting face-to-face with people. That's the fastest way to make money. That's the fastest way to get money in the door. So I ask them to define their strategies, put together a plan that's written down that they can look at and they execute on every single day. To me, people who don't do that will not be successful. So a lot of people random market. Yeah. So they go and they do a little of this and they do a little of that, and I'll talk to them and they'll say, I'm not really getting any traction. Mm-hmm. And I'll say, well, do you have your written down plan, and are you executing on it every single day? Well, I have it written down, but I don't know where it is, or it's in the drawer. So to me, that's the reason that people, and maybe it's fear that keeps them from doing it. Maybe it's not knowing. But I just try to get people to the point where do the easy things first, get out the door, start talking to people, start sharing your gifts with the world, and the money will come.
What's interesting to me, there's this story about a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs, and I think even it's a generational conversation now, that you'll hear this kind of, you got to bootstrap it a little bit more. You're not working hard enough. And I can tell you, in my 9 years of experience in this space, I haven't met a lot of people who are starting a business or becoming entrepreneurs that were lazy or that had that problem of not working. It's not that they're not working really hard. In fact, most of them do. And I think you nailed it. They're just working on the wrong stuff, or they're doing it in the wrong order, or they're like the worst thing. People will be shocked because I specialize in online marketing and campaign design. That's really what I do. And what's interesting is I'll tell people all the time, you're not ready for this, when people will start with me, because they're in the same place of what you mentioned. It's not worth it for their business to spend the money on that thing at that time. So you nailed the order perfectly correctly. And so you mentioned marketing as being the secret sauce. And so is that the one thing you would say that it's mandatory? You have to be marketing all the time in order to hit that number? Or if there was something else that was another mandatory piece of like, you have to do a certain activity every day, what would it be?
It's marketing. It's marketing. And it's marketing with a plan. And I say written down plan. So in the years and years and years I've been coaching, what I find is, and I will tell any of my clients, if you don't have a written down plan, you will not be successful. You will not make $10,000 a month, unequivocally. And that's just what I know. That's what I know with every cell in my being. So it's the one thing. It's the one most important thing. Now, are there other things that you need to do? Certainly. But to me, it's the key component that will differentiate success from not success.
Right. And what's interesting too, this is another thing I found in coaching a lot myself. It's interesting because I think a lot of people they do a lot of marketing and don't realize they're doing it. I'll see people at networking events all over. I network all over Roseville, all over Rockland, all around Sacramento. And so I meet hundreds of people and they all go into my organized system. Like you said, written marketing plan. They go in, they hear from me, they hear about this radio show, they hear about the meetups, they hear about what's going on. And what's interesting about that, though, is most people don't follow up. So from marketing that place, most people will say, but I need new people. That's what I'll hear all the time. I need more new people. And I like it. Janet, you could see her off. Since we're on the radio, you can't see her going. It drives me crazy. But it's amazing because what I find about most people when I start to dig in with them is they actually market a lot. And they may have 200, 300, 500 people they could follow up with right now and speak to, but they don't. And you mentioned fear. Do you think fear is the biggest reason for that, or is it just disorganization, or what is it?
I think the hardest part is to get the names.
Right.
The easiest part is to follow up with them. You've already got someone who's raised their hand and said, I'm interested in what you have. Here's my name and email address, or here's my business card, or whatever. So I don't think that's the hardest part. I think,
Sure.
or I don't think that's where the fear comes in. I think the fear usually presents itself in the beginning of the marketing phases, and then once they get the names. But like I did mouth to you, it makes me crazy. Why spend your time if you're doing a lot of free marketing? Why spend your money if you're paying for marketing, if you're going to get those names and emails or just those business cards or those connections and not follow up? And so here's a couple of things that I would say. If you're in a networking event and you meet someone and they say, I'm interested in what you've got, I pull out my smartphone and I say, great, let's follow on this conversation on next week. And I'll look at my schedule and I say, let's put something on the calendar right now.
Yep.
Do you know how many people do that?
Like
None. Like none. And so first of all, get the business cards from other people. Don't go to a networking event and give out business cards because that doesn't do you any good.
Right.
Secondarily, when someone says they're interested, get them on, get a meeting with them, get a follow-up with them immediately. Right. Don't wait, because when you do, and if you wait too long, they won't even remember, and you'll have that first initial conversation all over again. The leads go cold pretty fast.
Yeah.
So, capitalize on people who are raising their hand and saying, yes, I'm interested in what you have, Ken. How do I learn more? Great. Let's talk about it on Tuesday at 1 o'clock. Right.
So do you think that there's a big difference in skills between the people that are successful in your coaching and the people that aren't? Or what do you think is a big differentiator?
I don't think it's skills. I don't. I think it's persistence. Mm-hmm. I think it's consistency. I think it's getting out of your own way. I mean, a lot of times, we've all done things that we're afraid of. We're all done things that, give us a little anxiety. But if we don't get out of our own way and we don't challenge ourselves, we'll never grow. So I don't think it's a skill set. I think a skill set, lots of the skills like sales skills can be learned. But I think anyone could do it. Anyone who has the persistence and the consistency and the guts to just go out and make it happen can make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So Janet Fish is the Breakaway Breakaway coaching and sales and marketing expert. She's my guest on Find Your Momentum Radio today. And so let's keep that going. What do you think are the biggest distinctions between marketing and sales? So we've talked about how important marketing is. when does the sales piece come in and how important? What's the difference, or if there is one?
So to me, marketing is the way you find the conversation.
Right.
Sales is the conversation. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I have a couple of kind of basic theories. One of my basic theories is the percentage. So I'm talking to you and I want to sell you $10,000 a month coaching program.
Sure.
The percentage of time in our conversation that you're talking versus me is directly proportional to the chances I have of making the sale.
Right.
So if you're talking 90% of the time, I've got a 90% chance of making the sale.
Yep.
It's all about you. It's not about me. It's all about you. The second thing I would say is get to the emotion part of it. So we're having a conversation and you identify that you would be interested in making $10,000 a month in your business.
Sure.
So I don't stop there and say, great, buy my coaching program. I go, so Ken, tell me more about that. What would that mean to you? And you might say, well, I could pay my bills, or I could do, well, tell me more. What would that mean to you? What would that mean to your family? What would that mean to your loved ones? What would it mean to your children? And I get people to the emotional spot. I can't tell you how many people I've had cry, get choked up, but I'm connected with them on an emotional plane. And at that point, the money, they don't even ask me what it costs, right? They just say, yes, I'm interested. And then I talk a little bit about what it is. Get people to the point where they understand the benefits, but then get them to the emotional response around it.
Yeah, I think and we've already covered that on the first segment today, but it really is about the cause. It's really not just about the money. And people that are just focused on the money, I tend to find them getting disappointed because they'll keep moving that benchmark forward. It'll be 10K, then it'll be 20K, then it'll be $1 million. But if they don't really strongly connect with why they want it, they won't stick with it. Eventually it'll burn out or it'll flame out or something will go wrong and they'll lose that. And then moving forward, the more connected you are and the more authentic you are in that connection, the better off you'll be. And so as we start to wrap this segment, what do you think are the opportunities most people are missing? I think we've already identified follow-up. I think people need to be doing the offline marketing, the online marketing. We talked about that specifically. And on all the previous episodes of this show, findyourmomentumradio.com, you can hear lots of training on how do I find the people. But what else do you think people miss or the opportunities that they're missing?
I think one of the things that I've seen, just for me personally, is I talk about what I do everywhere I go. Mm-hmm. And I don't think a lot of people do that. So I think that's a huge missed opportunity. And I'll give you a couple of examples. I just moved to the area, and I've got my gardener and I've got the plumber because I had some problems. I'm at Trader Joe's. Every single one of those people are now prospects of mine because I said, I'm a coach. What do you do? I coach people on how to build a $10,000 a month business. I'm interested in that. Boom. I've got leads. Leads are everywhere.
Right.
And I don't come at it from the standpoint of I want to sell them something. I don't. I just come at it from the standpoint of I'm here to help people with what I have.
Right.
So I think that leads are everywhere. I think that people think their job is their job and their life is their life, and you and I well know.
Right.
The job and the life, they are one.
Yes.
We live who we are, and what we do for a living is an integral part of that.
Yep.
So I just think that it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And when you integrate the two, leads are everywhere.
Yeah, I loved how you said that. It is about a unified life, and I find that people that get really successful, I use this term that they just become more of themselves. The more authentic and the more of yourself you become, however it is you solve problems. Like you mentioned, you're a bottom line person. You look at the numbers, you give the solutions, you say how to go. I am probably sometimes more of that woo-woo, give them a little inspiration kind of thing. But I have both. I have the bottom line as well as that. So we all have our styles, and the more authentic we are to ourselves, the more money that'll show up in your bank account. And that's what we do here on Find Your Momentum Radio, findyourmomentumradio.com. And my guest today, Janet Fish, the Breakaway business growth and sales expert, is here. And we're talking about scaling your life, scaling your business up to that 10K level. And we go beyond that too. I know some of you out there have a business and you're cranking already and you're ready to make that move to 7-8 figures. That's fine. We do that too. But today we're focused on those of you that are listening because you want more money in your life. You want to build your investments. You want to build your business. And that's what my guest Janet specializes in, and also what we do here on the show. So let's move into a little bit of what the experience is like, because we talked about coaching and we talked about the connotation in our last segment. A lot of people, when they think about coaching, they think about life coaching, which is not what we're doing here. We're actually helping people get towards a result, get towards a plan. And so you mentioned in the last segment, and I want to expand on it a little bit, what happens when you normally start working with someone. So what is that process? You start working with someone, you meet them where they are. What does that look like, and what starts to happen in that coaching process?
So I have a 10-step process that I take people through. So the 10 steps of what are your products, and then what's your forecast, and then your marketing piece, then your email marketing. So I have a 10-step program that I take people through.
Nice.
Most people that I coach are starting out. I have a number that are trying to build to the second or the third 100,000, but most of the people that I coach are brand new to a business.
Right.
And so I really walk them through step by step by step exactly what you need to do in order to build a business. And I like to say it's straightforward and it's simple. It's not easy.
Right.
Okay, a big distinction there, but it's straightforward. And I like things straightforward. I don't like big, complex, detailed type of things. I like to lay it out. I like my marketing stuff to be laid out. And like I said, simple and straightforward, not necessarily always easy. So that's what I do. And I perfected that over coaching, probably thousands of people. And so I know it works. And like I said, it's just a step by step by step. If they're starting at the very beginning, we start at the beginning. If they're a little bit further along, we review the beginning and then catch them up to where they are.
Right. And when you came in today, I know that I got to see this really pretty flyer that's sitting right in front of me. I know we're going to speak to it a little bit more. And I know you offered, because here on Find Your Momentum Radio, we're serious about helping people get results and helping them make this show valuable to them, as opposed to just something you listen to on your drive home or something you listen to while you're walking in the morning. And so you've actually got a great guide here on those 10 steps. And I know you're going to offer that to our guests. So if you want to get that guide from Coach Janet Fish, who does this, and we're going to talk more about it, you can go download that right now at findyourmomentumradio.com. We'll have that up with the replay of this show and all shows so that you can get that. So you mentioned that's the process where they're starting with you. And what you mentioned, the average starting point to some degree is people that aren't in a business. So expand on that. Why did they get into business, do you think? Or, what do they tend to come to you with? Like, what are some of the things that they say when they're starting with you?
Well, I would say I'd put it in two camps. There's the camp of people who, in this economy, don't have jobs.
Yep.
Have lost jobs or are struggling to find jobs. And then there's the camp of people who have been in jobs, and I'll even add a third camp, that have been in jobs that just are disillusioned by it. And then I get a lot of people who are successful in jobs and are just looking to do the same thing, kind of the place that I was in.
Right.
So I kind of find people coming to me from those kind of different categories or different, perspectives.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the people that are starting a business, we've talked about them a little bit. What are some of the things, because obviously you were that person, so you have a lot of experience. For the people that are listening, around the area who are investing already, who are successful already, who are like, yeah, this sounds interesting, but I don't know that I would actually do it. What are some of the things you work on with them or that you deal with when you're dealing with someone like that who's a little bit more advanced?
Well, either way, whether it's you're advanced or whether you're not,
right.
It all starts with your skill set.
Yep.
And it all starts with your passion. So I don't know if I totally believe, follow your passion and the money will go. I think there's something to that. As long as the basic skill set that you have, you're utilizing that with your passion to grow a business. So let's say you're in corporate America and you're in sales. So those sales skills you could use, and I use that because those are my skills, to sell anything. I could sell this water bottle. I could sell whatever.
Sell me this pen.
Sell me the pen. I could do that because that's my skill set. If you're an engineer, you've got some basic skills.
Yeah.
So utilize those skills, identify those skills, and that's usually the first step. I'll take someone through if they have no idea what business they want to get into.
Yeah, and I want to be clear because we did say in the last segment, and just to refresh before you move on, is it's not about being more or less skilled than anybody else. I really always hammer that point. It's just about where are you right now, and you mentioned that. So where are you? What are the skills you have right now? What do you do in your life? And then what happens? And
then I ask about what are you passionate about?
Right.
Because being an entrepreneur is not, it's hard, right?
Yeah.
It's work. It's a lot of work. And if you're not passionate about what you sell, about what you do, about your services or whatever, it's a lot harder to do. It's a bigger climb.
Right.
But for some people, I will tell them you have to follow the skills that you have to build the business. Then you get to go into the passion.
Right.
Because if you have no skills around what you're passionate about, it's going to be a much harder climb.
Absolutely. Well, and that's what not even is it just hard, but a lot of times I've found, I was actually just in a discussion on Blab. For those of you that haven't used it, you should be checking it out, blab.im. Great kind of talk radio, video talk platform out there. And I was in this conversation where, they mentioned that there are some alarming statistics about entrepreneurship, and people that become entrepreneurs, especially in the early phase, struggle with anxiety. They struggle with depression because, as you mentioned, it is hard, especially since a lot of people are into that work at home. You start off alone, you start those goals. So do you deal with that a lot in your coaching, or what do you find with that when that starts to come up?
So that is a great question. I'm really glad you brought that up, or a great concept. What I did, and what I would tell anyone to do, is go find other entrepreneurs.
Right.
Go hang out with the Ken Courses of the world. Go hang out with the people who are where you want to be.
Yep.
When I quit my job and with a big corporate company, my family and my friends, most of which were in corporate America, thought I was insane. And you will find that those are the people raining on your parade.
Right.
They're telling you can't do it. So they're kind of the doggy downers, and you don't want to hang out with those people. So you want to go find people that are where you want to go, or in the mindset of where you want to go, and start hanging out with those people.
Right.
It's so important. Get out of the house and really work with other entrepreneurs, or talk to other entrepreneurs, or hang out with other entrepreneurs. They say your net worth is equal to the 10 people you hang out with.
Yeah.
So hang out with those people who are doing what you want, where you want to be, and that will really help you get into the mindset and keep you out of some of it, because it's hard. I mean, it is hard. And to have other people that you can rely on, that you can hold you accountable for what you say you're going to do, all those are really, really important as you make that transition.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you nailed the point of, you'll always find probably 10 more people who will tell you negative things about your business or what you're trying to do than the one positive person when you're digging around, because people say, oh, you're really doing that, or that's what you're doing, or how could you be doing that? And especially people, I experience this a lot in the networking around the area with people who are in network marketing companies. I find it really interesting, and I want to speak to that for a second. Is, people that are in network marketing or multi-level marketing will always say, oh, it's a scam, or it's a big thing like this, when multi-level marketing has become the fastest emerging industry in the United States. I do a little bit of it myself. I don't do a ton actively, but I see the value of it. And a lot of people who are in those, oh my God, the naysayers you hear, like you'll even hear people that organize the events say, oh, if the network marketing people show up. So I imagine you get some of that, people who say, I pick up something else. What would you do with someone who's in network marketing or multi-level marketing?
So I don't differentiate the 10 steps.
Yes.
The 10 steps work regardless of what business you're in. In network marketing, one of the things that I would, just to go back to the point we were just talking about, I would really, really encourage you, if you're in a network marketing company, to find the leaders in that company and hang out with them.
Yep.
Figure out how they do it. But at the end of the day, the 10 steps are the 10 steps, and it doesn't matter whether you're in a network marketing company or you're coaching or you're selling water bottles. Right.
Totally true. And what's interesting too is, so you've got the 10 steps. Again, for those of you that just tuned in, you can get those totally free. There's a great full color document here. It's like golf colors. It's green and yellow. It cracks me up.
Color money.
Color money. That's true. I didn't even think about that. I said golf. So that shows where my head is right now. But you can get this for free at findyourmomentumradio.com. And you can download this along with this episode, and all of the other episodes of the show are available there for you to get the training. And so in here, like you said, it isn't necessarily the business. It isn't necessarily the skill set. We've mentioned a lot of the starting points. So what happens when businesses start to scale? So once they've got some traction, then what?
Team.
Easy enough. Right? Simple answer.
I mean, team.
Right.
And that's the only way you're going to scale.
Yep, I would agree. And even beyond that, when you think about putting people on teams, I've experienced this with a lot of coaching clients who are building the team, and they've started to realize the challenges in that. If you get so used to success on your own, it's almost like unlearning some of those things and starting to rely on other people to do them. Do you find that often?
I do. So let me give you an exercise, or share an exercise that I use with my clients.
Great.
So get out a piece of paper.
Okay.
And then in the first column, write down all the things that you do during the course of your day, your week, your month. Second column at the top, write things I like to do. Third column, things I'm good at.
Yeah.
Check mark, check mark, check mark down. The things that don't have check marks, you're not good at them and you don't like to do them, hire those first.
There you go.
And most times those are the laundry, those are errands, those are menial tasks. Sorry for the accountants out there, but the QuickBooks, that data entry. For a lot of people, those are the things that they don't like to do and they're not good at.
Hey, accountants have to sell too.
Right. And so normally those are the things you can hire out for not a lot of money.
Right.
So that's just an exercise that I used long ago to allow myself to kind of unload myself from some of the things that I could do, right? But I shouldn't be doing. I should be spending that time, instead of going to the grocery store and spending an hour doing that, I should be marketing.
Yeah, it's become the tagline of the show to some degree that says your money is won or lost in your calendar. I say that all the time in terms of your time. It's the one resource that you have to manage tightly because you don't get it back. And for the most part, if you're not on top of where your time is going, and it's interesting. I love that exercise. I'll have to look at that. I've used a different one that's similar, but same idea that, if you're not focused on the tasks that are helping grow and scale the business, as well as looking into the future, which I know is where I'm going to go in our final segment today, looking into the future to say what's coming up or what's next or pacing ahead, then you're really in some trouble at that point. And then you get derailed again. So this is the biggest value of coaching. And I'm here with Janet Fish, who is the Breakaway growth business expert, helping you. And she mentioned, get your free plan on findyourmomentumradio.com. It's a beautiful color of money document.
Now, back to Ken Course.
Ken Course here, trying to do the voiceover guy's voice. Not quite as accurate. Definitely not me that does that with my guest, Janet Fish, the Breakaway business growth expert, headed into our final segment today. And again, for those of you who are just tuning in or just getting in your car to drive home from work, we're talking about how do you scale a business to 10K or more. And we can go to all levels. And we've talked about a 10-point system, which you can download this beautiful color of money document. Very simple. Hang it on your wall in front of you. I know I'm going to do that. And have it in front of you because it really is a step-by-step process. And so now I want to start looking into the future. So we're going to pull out our crystal balls here for the entrepreneurs. And I want to talk about some of the things that start to derail people when they're actually getting successful. So some people will follow this model. They'll get really successful. I find this in particular, I use my weight loss journey as a reference for that. For a lot of people who have just tuned in, I've lost 100 pounds over the past 5 years. And for me, I think there are bumps in the road, bumps in the journey. So as an entrepreneur who gets in a groove and starts making money, what are some of the things that start to derail them along the way?
I'll go back to kind of the lack of team. So
Sure.
A lot of entrepreneurs, as they're building their business, and I know you've done that, and I know I've done that.
Yes.
I do everything. I think I can do it better than anybody else, and so I kind of get stuck in the momentum, lack of momentum, because I can only do so many things. So I think it's really identifying how you can find people that will help you and build your team. To me, that's really how you grow. The other thing I will address is there are people out there, and I think I might have been one of them at some point in my life, where I thought that making $100,000 or $200,000 was all I should make.
Yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
So I had a block because I didn't think people who, making a whole lot of money was not ever my goal.
Right.
And it's interesting because the more money you make, the more things you can do. And I don't mean boating and I'm talking about.
We're in a drought. There's no boating.
But the more money you make, the more touch you can have on the world in the areas that you're passionate about. So, just a couple of things that could just come up the top of my head is that fear of, or that not wanting to make a whole lot of money is sometimes a mindset that people need to get over. Because to me, the more money I make, the more I get to give away.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a passion for me.
Oh, yeah. Well, and for all of us, I think it is. I think people become business owners or entrepreneurs in the first place because they want to solve somebody's problem. Even if, no matter what the business is, it's normally oriented around some kind of problem. Somebody's got a problem somewhere, and this product, this service, this offering, whatever it is, solves a big piece of that problem for people. And so we talked a little bit in an earlier segment, and I want to revisit. So we talked about how we're looking at life integration. We're saying that you don't have separate lives. Now, that said, I do know that balance to some degree is an important thing. We said that money is won or lost in your calendar, and I don't tell people, that means that your calendar should be booked 20 hours a day with activities and that you shouldn't have any balance at all. You need to have balance. So what would you advise people that are super busy and super focused on this to start to have some balance? How do they get that in their lives?
Yeah, and I think it's critical. I think, and that's why I wrote a book about, being healthy.
Right.
And being healthy when you have a crazy, crazy travel life or a crazy, crazy business life. So I look at it like this. The healthier I am, the more relaxed I am, the more calm I am, the more peaceful I am, the better entrepreneur I am.
Yep.
Right? The craziness that you get into when you're stressed and you're trying to do 9,000 things shows in all your interactions.
Yes.
Right? So if you don't take time for yourself, for most of us, we are the business.
Yep.
If I'm sick, my business, it may not be running. I mean,
Right.
I do have a lot of infrastructure and all those, but as you're starting out as an entrepreneur, it's all about you.
Yep.
And if you're sick, then you're not making any money. So
Right.
to me, you're the most important employee in your business.
Yeah.
Right? Go to the gym every day, right? We all do.
Absolutely.
It's just a thing for me, and I know it's a thing for you. It helps me be more effective. It helps me think more clearly, helps me feel better about myself. So I think you're doing a huge disservice if you're run,
Right.
and not taking care of yourself and not having balance in your life.
Yeah, and I think, again, that's another reason most people do it. We mentioned the reasons right at the beginning of this episode when we talked about family and community and lifestyle, which health is part of lifestyle, I would say. If you're not a healthy person and you're not doing this with that goal in mind, then you're not going to be successful in it. And so you've worked with a lot of successful people. Like, what would you say is your biggest success story, or the one that sticks out to you of like, man, that was a home run?
Working with Ken Course.
I will take it. I will. My ego is flattered. No, seriously. Who have you worked with that you think is what's a story from your coaching that you would say, man, that's a win?
Okay, so I'll take the two lovely ladies in Southern California,
right,
who own a food truck, I would say.
Oh yes,
right.
Yes.
So I got them, and they had no idea how much money they made. Well, they know how much money they made, but they didn't know how much money they netted. So I took them from there to boom, 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 multiple restaurants, international, just by having them follow the steps that I talked to them about.
10 steps. You can get them at findyourmomentumradio.com. Thanks so much to Janet Fish, the Breakaway business growth and sales expert on Find Your Momentum Radio every Tuesday.